You ever compare yourself to other people online on social media, and then afterward you feel maybe guilty or unworthy or maybe even useless? You maybe just feel like you're quote unquote not cut out for it. I know that I used to. And the crazy thing is that a study showed that 92% of Gen Z actually had their self-esteem affected by comparison, comparing themselves to other people online. So if you imagine that you were sitting inside a cafe with 10 other people, 10 Gen Z people around you. So basically just people are from the ages of 13 to 28, 10 of them. Of those 10, 9 of them would have their self-esteem affected by other people, by comparing themselves. And potentially even feel like they're just, maybe worse. And like I just mentioned, I used to be one of those 9 people. For context, my journey started online roughly in 2022 when I started coming across self-improvement content online on YouTube. And one of the main people I came across and that really kind of inspired me was Iman Gadzhi. And if you don't know, Iman Gadzhi is someone who made his first $1 million at 18. And so I tried my hand at pursuing the same business model as him. It was called SMMA, Social Media Marketing Agency. And I tried the same business model, and a year later, there I was, also at 18, struggling to barely even provide any decent results for my 3 clients that I signed. And that, by the way, I also struggled to sign and only managed to sign after 10,000 cold calls. Meaning, I dialed strangers over 10,000 times before I signed a few clients, where he had made his first $1 million at the same age. And to say the least, I just felt almost useless, honestly. I just couldn't understand why I I felt like I couldn't utilize my potential at all. And yet there were other people out there they seemed like they were on top of the world, achieving incredible things. And here I was, just struggling. And yeah, it wasn't nice. But after many, many months of struggling and just feeling, quite frankly, like a fish trying to climb a tree, if I were to use the example from Albert Einstein's quote, but then after those many, many months, I eventually realized why this was. And the reason was that I was so focused on how much higher up on the mountain he was than me that I never came to realize that I wasn't even climbing my own mountain. I was climbing his mountain and not my own. So no wonder I was there struggling and in pain and bruised, trying to reach the top of this mountain when, well, it wasn't even my own mountain. And there's a name for this. If you're pursuing goals that aren't your own, but rather you're just trying to climb the top of someone else's mountain just because, it's a goal that maybe will make us look more important to others or better, it's called being extrinsically driven. So basically, you're pursuing things outside of yourself. You don't actually truly deep down want to do that thing. You're just doing it to achieve these goals. Some people call it cart and stick. So either you're running away from a punishment or you're running towards, a cart as an analogy. So basically, you're just trying to, achieve money or fame or cars. And we often don't realize that we're driven by these things. But when I was comparing myself to Iman Gadzhi, clearly I just felt like I needed to be making a certain amount of money to have a sense of importance, to be able to be someone who can inspire people and just actually influence and inspire people. I felt like I needed to be making loads of money just because someone else was. And that wasn't true. And then eventually I realized that the key to escaping comparison and even competition, because there's a quote that I like from Naval Ravikant. He said, escape competition through authenticity. So basically, the way to escape comparison and competition is through doing what is true to you and only you can do, because no one can compete with you. There is only one you. And John Mason said, you were born an original, don't die a copy. And when I came across these quotes, I had a massive epiphany. I realized that no wonder I was struggling and I felt useless, because I wasn't even walking down my own path or climbing my own ladder or my own mountain. I was trying to pursue things just because other people were doing them. And well, there's actually only three things you need to do to become intrinsically driven. So when you're intrinsically driven, it's the opposite of being extrinsically driven, right? So to use the example of a car, if you were extrinsically driven, that's like pushing your car off of a cliff to gain loads of speed. Sure, you'll gain loads of speed, you'll go really fast, but sooner or later, you will crash. And being intrinsically driven is like having an engine, right? Exactly what is expected in a car. Yet, when it comes to us people, we are often motivated by extrinsic things outside of ourselves. And the reason we keep crashing constantly and feeling like we're useless and burned out and overwhelmed is because we're pursuing things that aren't even true to us, that we either don't like or we're not great at, or just simply aren't true to us. And so there's a book called Drive by Daniel Pink, and he lays out 3 points, the 3 things to do to actually become intrinsically driven. And those 3 things are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So let me just touch on each of these for you just now, because these have been massively impactful in my life. They've helped me so much. And to start with the first one, autonomy. Autonomy basically means just having the freedom to do your own thing. Now, I know you may think, well, I'm working a job. If you're working a job, for example, maybe if you're watching this, you're a creator or entrepreneur, maybe you're in school. But if you're working a job, for example, you think to yourself, well, I don't have that freedom. You do. You have the freedom to choose your response. So Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response, you have the freedom to choose, which basically means you have the freedom to choose your responses to everything in life. And the thing is that people give themselves the illusion of control by coming home from work and turning on Netflix. And the funny thing is that people tell themselves they're lazy to give themselves the illusion of control. And the reason for that is because when people tell themselves they're lazy, that they use that as an excuse not to go out into the world and try things. And so since they're not trying, they're not really going to be failing, and that gives them the illusion of control. They think, well, I'm not failing, so I'm in control of my life. When really they're not even doing things that, are meaningful to them, just watching Netflix, right? So basically, to summarize this, just in this minute or two that I have to touch on autonomy, to have autonomy, to get started with creating autonomy in your life, instead of watching Netflix, go out on a long walk and try and ask yourself, well, what really, truly is meaningful to me? And by the way, this is easier said than done, because what you will find, and because this is something that I found from personal experience, the first time when you ask yourself, what do I really want? What are my goals? Often enough, you're just going to come up with the first thing that comes to mind, which will be some goals that people have assigned to you, like retirement or, getting a mortgage or something. But it takes time to really look within and understand what you truly want. It's very interesting because after years of conditioning, it's almost as if we have to peel away the layers until we can get down to our true selves at our core. So essentially, the more time you can give yourself to spend alone with your own mind, with your own thoughts, the closer you will get to being true to you and understanding what makes you, you. And it's a slow process. Initially, you will maybe come up with one kind of goal to pursue and you can pursue that, but eventually you realize that maybe you want something else. And something that I've found really helpful is actually visualizing or imagining your own funeral. Just imagining that you were dead and maybe you were somehow able to walk over and see yourself being dead and give a speech at your own funeral. What would you say? What would you want, or what would you want other people to say about you that you've done and that you've become? Really think about that, because that may reveal to you what your true values are and what you truly want to do. And by the way, I got that from the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's something that is very interesting to try. The second thing is mastery. And mastery seems like a very abstract or overused word, but essentially it comes from the innate human need for competence. We all want to feel like we're good at something. And people tell themselves, I'm smart in my own way, right? I'm intelligent in my own way. But to make that really true, or to pursue mastery, all we really have to do is just pursue things that, once again, are true to us. And once again, I'm saying once again lots, this, it's not an instant process. So it takes time to really look within and understand what is true to you. But to start pursuing something that you can master, and I know once again this word seems like, strange, because we've gone through school and we've not been taught to pursue something that is true to us and that we can master. We're just taught to get a normal job and, be happy, retire, marry, die, But if you've ever read the book Mastery by Robert Greene, you'll see that there's a lot more to life than just retiring and dying happy, quote unquote. And to live a truly fulfilling life, for us people, it's about finding work that we truly love and that we enjoy. If you think about your grandparents, you will probably find that they love spending their time either gardening or knitting or something. They've got something that they love doing because, well, that is work. That thing, like tending to that garden or sewing and creating those things, or maybe it's knitting, whatever it might be, that is work. But the key is to find work that feels like play to you, but looks like work to others. And to to find work that feels like play to you, the best way to do that is kind of just to ask yourself, well, what did I feel naturally inclined to do when I was a child? What did I truly love to do? And you will find that that's your thing. And if you really start leaning into that, then that's how you can pursue. I'm not even going to say mastery again, but that is the point there. Yes, mastery, but just becoming good at something. And to get started, this could just be a hobby or something if you are working a job. But eventually, hopefully, this is something that you can go all into. And I know this might shock you, but I believe that the only reason we see some people as geniuses like Albert Einstein or Leonardo da Vinci or Nikola Tesla, the only reason those people became quote unquote geniuses is because they leaned into what made them truly them. That's it. It's because they didn't spend their lives working a job that someone else forced them to do. It's just because they spent their time doing what was true to them. And so the compounding effect took place. If you're not familiar with it, it's like a curved line that goes up and up and up. So essentially your results keep climbing or keep getting increasingly bigger. And Albert Einstein, for example, when he was around 8 years old, supposedly he got a compass from his father for his birthday, and he was just mesmerized by how there were invisible forces pulling this needle side to side inside of the compass. And that was his thing. Like that was a sign of, this sort of thing he was meant to pursue. And he did pursue that. And he spent years, like over a decade, working on his theories until he came up with his theory of relativity. It took him a decade. And third of all, purpose. So, purpose, we all want a sense of meaning in the world, right? We all want to feel like we're here for a reason, and if we don't, it's no wonder we're going to feel lost. And I find the simplest way to find your purpose is to use the Ikigai exercise. If you're not familiar with the Japanese Ikigai philosophy, basically you take what you love, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs, and you find the intersection between all those four things, and that's your purpose. Basically, Ikigai is like your reason for being, so why you're even here. And if you combine all these things, so autonomy, you start pursuing your own goals instead of goals that people have assigned to you, that society or gurus have assigned to you. Mastery, so you start pursuing what is true to you and that you love and that you can become great at. Or to use another word, your craft. That's a word I really like to use. Or vocation is another word. And then third of all, you do it all for a greater purpose. You do it for you have a mission. You have a sense of a sense of mission in the world. And if you combine these three things, I find that in my personal experience, you no longer feel the need to compare with other people because you just feel like you're walking your own path. You just feel like it's your own mission, it's your own journey. And why compare to others? Because they're on their journey, they're climbing their own mountain, but I've got my own mountain and I'm happy with my own mountain. And I'm just going to keep climbing my mountain. And just to wrap this up, I'm going to leave you with something that I saw somewhere a long time ago and that I really like the way it sounded. And it's don't climb mountains for the world to see you, climb mountains for you to see the world. So basically, being intrinsically driven by doing what is true to you. And that is how you escape comparison and competition. I wish you all the best. Go out and do incredible things. And go out and do specifically incredible things that are true to you. Be mega. Ciao.